Good morning, everyone, and we are back for another Tech Talk, talking about how we can use technology to make learning more accessible for all of our students. And I'm joined once again today by our tech coach extraordinaire, the amazing Nicole Cunningham. You're going to take us through something really exciting, and that's just some study skills of collecting highlights.
Absolutely. We are going to dive into another read-write tool today.
Awesome.
And we are going to use collecting highlights to help students deal with some unfamiliar words, some information that they might want to explore further, something that is the most important concept in whatever they read, or even just a particular phrase or a concept that they have more questions about. But first, before we even go there, Trish, something to do right now, you can see I'm on Wikipedia.
This is every student's favorite place to go, the first place they need to research, right?
Absolutely. And so, but there's a way to make this a lot simpler, because if I scroll down, there's a lot of information here and it can be a little bit overwhelming.
Right.
What is something that we can do to simplify this, little Trish?
Well, here's what's great about Wikipedia is they actually have built into their language selection. We know that Wikipedia is available in almost 140 languages, but we know that one of the languages on the left-hand side, right there where it shows us, you can choose Simple English. Now, if you don't see Simple English, because that wasn't one of the most recent one you do, you just click the 133 more, you start searching for Simple English, it'll come up. And what that does is removes some of the extraneous language that, is on the page just to make this a little bit more accessible. You can see this only took out what it had to, but it's still enough that's going to allow it to be a more appropriate reading level without having necessarily some of those higher level kind of extra vocabularies or citations put on that page. So now this makes it a little more usable when we are ready to collect our highlights. And I love this, Nicole, because we did vocabulary builder last time, and I can only choose one word at a time. But this time you're saying we can use read and write to collect sentences and phrases.
Yes, we can. And so as Trish said, the vocab builder, we could only do one word because we're working with our vocabulary one word at a time. This one, we want to actually collect some highlights. So we want to be able to read a paragraph and determine what the main point of that paragraph is. So what's the most important piece of that? And so we can highlight anywhere from one word to a whole sentence, or even possibly a couple sentences, Trish?
Oh yeah, totally we can do this. Absolutely. And so right now you'll see your floating toolbar is there. If your floating toolbar is ever not where you want it, if you kind of notice that, Nicole's working on two screens, wherever you see that little crosshair on the left-hand side of your toolbar beside the, it looks like the word prediction, looks like a crystal ball, just know that means you can drag your toolbar that's floating anywhere on the page. It's docked when you're inside of a Google Doc, but when you're using it on the web, you can move that toolbar around for that visual comfort. So that's pro tip number one. But you're going to take us through, and you talked to us about this strategy last time where I can identify the color of the highlighter based on what I want the students to find, right?
Yes. So let's say, for example, that the task for the students in the class is to choose 3 different phrases. One that is the main point of the paragraph or of the reading that they're doing. So they're going to highlight that in yellow. So you might want to have this up on the smartboard or on your whiteboard, just like exactly what you're wanting. So yellow is going to be the most important phrase in this reading. The second thing is going to be something that they don't quite understand, and we're going to use green to do that. So something that is unfamiliar to them, a phrase, a concept, they're going to highlight that in green. And then, of course, if there's something that they just want to explore a little bit further because they find it really interesting, then maybe we're going to highlight that in the blue. So as I start to read through here, and I'm not going to read this at the moment just to show you, but I'm just going to say that I'm going to select this piece. So here's the most important piece that I want to read that is in this particular paragraph. And so I'm going to highlight this with our yellow highlighter.
I love that.
So again, using colors to tag important information or to help organize our thoughts is always a great idea. So the green was for something I was unfamiliar about. So I'm going to go down to this one here, and it says, when people burn fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas, it adds carbon dioxide into the air. Oh, I'm not really sure how that works. So I'm going to do that one in green because that's what we've been asked to do. And then, of course, the last thing is I find this really interesting. As the Earth's surface temperature becomes hotter, the sea level rises. This is
Mm.
particularly because water expands when it gets warmer. It's also partly because water temperatures make glaciers and ice caps melt. And so I actually want to just highlight this piece right here. And I'm going to do this in blue because it's something that I want to explore a little bit further.
This is
So now,
great.
right? So now that I have my three components highlighted or my phrases, I'm going to come up here to my collect highlights. And so it's just this little circle.
With all the colors, this is great. And so just like vocabulary builder, you're going to click this. We've already given the permissions to our Google Drive. So it's already creating a new Google Doc for us in our Google Drive. It has the highlights. It's given us the citation. It's put your name on it. You now can actually come in here and start making some meaning and putting in some notes, right?
Absolutely. So, Trish, this is the most important piece of information within this reading that I did. So what might I want to do with this?
Well, for me, I think I would start to it would say, what is our average temperature? Like, what is our average temperature now? Like, I guess I kind of don't even know. I'd want to look at that, or like, what can I do to combat temperature? Like, what are our human actions that actually impact temperature? How does that even work? So I think for me, I might want to start listing some questions that I have when it comes to being able to do this. Yeah, and if you find it still highlighting, it's just picking that up because you were on there. And previously, when we were on the other one, just remember, Nicole was reading out that Wikipedia page. Use the play button. You can use the speech to text and text to speech in order to be able to have that article read to you. Even here, we could use some voice typing. We could definitely use all of the read write features when it comes to just being able to totally make this customizable to the level of your students and the amount of support they need for that independence. I think that's the key part, right, Nicole? We don't want our students having to wait for the human adult for independence. We want to teach them to use the tools for independence.
No, absolutely. So if they come to this Wikipedia and it's a little bit too difficult for them, or there's a lot of unfamiliar words, they're really going to struggle as a reader. So using read write, especially once they have selected it and tagged it wherever they want on their page, they can then hit play and it will read it out to them as well.
This is exciting. And again, it's one of those tools where I'm like, where was this when I was using my master degree? Whether I'm collecting highlights in a doc off of a PDF on a web page, that collect highlights completely works. And now we've made it a lot easier for our students to start to make meaning. And thanks for that extra pro tip, Nicole, about using simple English when we are going to Wikipedia. So I hope that this has been one of those videos that you want to take and use with your students right away as we are studying and continuing through the term. And we will be back with more Tech Talk for accessibility next week. Bye, everybody.